All right. Welcome to another day of SAT and sleep-induced euphoria. I'm going to be pretty out of it again. Uh, oh no! So, I'm just getting settled right now. Uh, and I should probably fix this angle here. All right. I think the tech stuff is out of the way. Let me make sure. Looks like we're pretty good with the angles. Cool. Now I have this ball of enlightenment just hanging over my head, right? Say hello to the ball. And it's a beautiful 10:50 a.m. Morning in New York City. I am not going crazy. I am not sleep deprived. I am not dreading taking this SAT right now. I'm very excited. I am not a prisoner. So, today we're gonna take the 2020 March QAS. I'm more or less ready to get started. I'm actually pretty late because I have to finish all this by 1 p.m. So let's see. Let's see if we can make it. All right. The lesson from yesterday is do push-ups frequently to stay awake. And yeah, keep things chill. If I'm not in my best condition, just let myself have 5 additional minutes or whatever. Again, the pacing that I generally try to keep is 12 minutes per passage to finish within 60 minutes. Realistically today, I feel like I will not be able to manage that. I feel like realistically today, I'll probably continue to make some mistakes that I will regret immediately. But, such is the nature of practicing and not always being in the best condition, which is realistic. That's actually how you guys will probably be practicing, because you guys are busy students. I assume if you're nerdy enough to watch something like this, I assume you're like busy students. So I hope this stuff is really helpful for you guys. I would appreciate it if you left a comment if you left a comment below. Just kind of let me know what your story is, why you're here, and initiate a chat of any sort. All right, now let's get into the 2020 March test. Here we go. Oh, I kind of saw this one before. Well, yeah, I think I've seen this one before. Oh, I actually didn't even start my timer. I'm about to start my timer in. All right, here we go. It just started. Let me see the second passage to make sure. Yeah, I do vaguely, fuzzily remember this. I must have taught this reading at some point, one-on-one. Well, let's get going, guys. So, as a minor comment, I've mostly not seen these tests, but there are a few that I've done for tutoring, like here and there randomly. So sometimes this will happen. So this is not my first time seeing this. Okay. Okay, lots of characters, so it might be a little overwhelming. But here, like if I look at Jessamy, the Jessamy is the central focus right now for me. So that's how I would stay. That's how I would normally stay on top of all these different characters that are coming out. Like who's the focus? He seemed mellower and smaller. Okay, we have the he. This is referring to grandfather. So Jess is Jessamy, had a fear that the grandfather might start shouting at her. Right. So he's mellower and smaller. He's like not as scary. In mock consternation, to and they laughed. Her father smiled. Right. Meet grandpa. Meet grandpa. Hands were big and square, spade like. She took a step towards him. She's nervous. She cannot feel on her. She's just unconsciously nervous. And she doesn't know what to do. And reaching him when suddenly he said, Rolla. Who? That's her name. That's her non-English name, her Yoruba name. Yoruba being, right? Gold. Uh, oh, interesting. Her grandfather had asked for in a letter. Okay, right. So this is like a name that never felt real. Never felt real, which is common in American, immigrant American novels or experience where you have the, like, when I have my Korean name that I never use in America, that I also don't really use in Korea, because I go with my American name. I'm looking back on the left side, but what was I even looking for? Whom she could not see. Okay, so I'm looking back on the right side. Go to her grandfather. She still hasn't gone all the way to the grandfather. Worla sounded like another person, not at all. In this place, in this unusual place. Should she answer? Should she become Worla and by so someone who she doesn't belong here? She does not belong here. After, firmly in a polite. So there's still some distance here. There's still some distance. I mean, auntie and uncle, there, but I don't think all these people is really that important to focus on. Right. Her father. So right, the older women are leaving, the other older men are leaving, so that naturally they're in the clutches, which is like a violent sounding word, of the grandfather. So she's being led straight into the lion's den. You know, she's still scared and feeling distant from the grandfather. So her grandfather did have a face. It was broad. Oh, wide, strong jawline as her mother. Prominent cheekbones. We're just describing his face right now, although Jess could see his were made more angular through emaciation of age. Lots of age descriptions. He was quite short and moving about very quickly. He's older and quickly moving. Uh, she allowed, that's interesting, allowed herself to stare openly and seriously, and he stared. A little piece of him that had crumbled off. That's kind of cute. Just examining for flaws. Oh, except this is not cute. Okay. Is it worth? Impossible to tell what he thought of her. Still scared. Still scared. So in this next paragraph, do we get like do we get like some closing of the distance at a right angle? Still stiff. Silence. Still scared. Up. He sat very upright. Oh, like her. That's interesting. Similarity. Oh, this is not how I remember this story ending. Okay. They were waiting to see they would like so they just have this moment where they're not really connecting, and they're on the verge of connecting, but they're not connecting. Uncertain circle. Line 1. There they all stood, a circle that is uncertain. And then her grandfather came forward, and then afterwards everyone like starts saying hi and then laughs. Disoriented after. So journey, why would we know anything about the journey? Self-conscious, tentative about interacting makes sense. Like awkward, feeling slightly awkward. Suspicious means like they would like not like each other. Dependent. Here we go. Wow. Her reaction, the thing that influences her reaction is her memories of her father, her memories of her mother's portraits of the grandfather. So that should be the prediction, which comes out over here on the top left somewhere. The picture that her mother had painted, right? So I should say over here, ominous. Oh, right there. See, I looked for the word mother. I saw ominous descriptions, and that would be the correct answer. Um, like, why would it be indifference? He's the first one who said hi. His physical presence is actually not intimidating, and her parents don't have concerns about being reunited. And this comes out literally in 4 to 5, 3 to 5, 3 to 7. That works. So let's move on. In the passage, I'm losing. I'm not even keeping time. Wow. Okay. The actions of the father suggest that he. Oh, what did he do? Top left and top right. What does he do? The father smiles encouragingly and tries to get her to go. The father. I'm looking for the father. Also on the top right, we have. It's bottom right. We have father, who is political, and then releases her. So those are the parts where we have the father, and he's not. That has nothing to sociable. It suggests that he wants her to. Oh yes. No. We didn't get this. Has it? he has an imperfect understanding. Yes, yes, yes. He wants her to go to her grandfather. Yes, he wants her to go to her grandfather. Gonna keep going because I'm realizing I'm talking too much and it's taking too much time. Which choice best describes the reaction? Uncertainty and awkwardness and disassociation. She resents, no. She recognizes, but no, the meaning is not the. She's startled that remember. No, she has never met him before. Aware it is her name, unable to acknowledge it. Doesn't feel like me, doesn't feel like I belong. The evidence is over here on the top right. Yeah, top right, top right. Right, like another person didn't feel like her. She doesn't belong here, right? She knew her name, but nobody had ever called her Warola. So we have all of that. Familiar with some of the customs that her family observes. Trying to remember, when do we have her awareness of the customs? I feel like with the name we had some of the customs. Is that bottom left? Is that top right? No, it's not bottom left. So this is one custom. Had asked for an alert to call naming ceremony. That's the only custom I can think of right now. It's 25, 26. Let me just double check over here. 25, 26. Thank you. We have 23, 27. Just double checking. Of course, she knew. Okay, so she knew all of these things. She's familiar with these customs that the family observes with the mom, with the grandfather, setting the name and giving the naming ceremony. Okay, that is that custom. The custom of the naming ceremony. So let's look at 33, 37 first before looking at the answer choices. So this is a description. Here in this corridor, the whole point of this is Warola sounded like another person. It didn't sound like her. That's the whole point. In this setting, it doesn't sound like another it sounds like another person, not like her at all. Okay, so the main purpose of the description, line 33 to 37, is, so when I think purpose, I'm just thinking the purpose of that is to characterize her as feeling disassociated from her own name. Okay, so here we go. Okay, this is interesting. By invoking natural setting, but philosophical is a little sus. I mean, is it philosophical? She just feels disassociated from her name. It doesn't sound philosophical. Okay. Correspondence between. Aha. That literally, it's not her emotional state is more accurate. And then natural setting, physical setting. Okay. Yeah. So this is B is better than A, and it's actually, it's better than A. Because of philosophical, it's not philosophical. Her emotional state is like disassociation, like kind of feeling awkward and confused, and then she has the physical surrounding is a setting of like Nigeria where she doesn't belong, right? She doesn't really belong in this place, so. This suggests it. It suggests the correspondence, and then literally the next line after that specifically explicitly states her thought that she doesn't belong. Okay, I'm at 1450. Oh, geez. I guess this is what happens if I just keep explaining, huh? I feel a little awkward about this one because I did read this before, so it makes it easier to just tell the answer. Maybe in this case, it's not really like a live solving as much as live explanation and taking while trying to remember what happened. While half remembering what happened. The questions in lines 38, 41 serves primarily for straight dresses. Let's just look at this first so I don't get confused. Did I just lose my battery for this? Kind of annoying. Can I? Can my iPhone charge my Apple Pencil? Because it's kind of silly. I'm just doing this, hoping it's better. Because my iPad is already connected, so please work. Okay, it doesn't work. All right, then that means I actually have to take a break because I can't show you what I'm doing unless I have my pencil. So I'm gonna charge my Apple Pencil and think a little bit out loud. While my pencil is charging, I'm just gonna think out loud about a couple things. First, I need coffee. Pencil is at 6%, so maybe 5 minutes. So, what is a better streaming experience if this is not actually my first time seeing the test, and I have a suspicion that what I'm currently doing, which is like a sort of it's like a blend between Khan Academy and my usual streams. Because Khan Academy, Saul Khan's explanations tend to have this feeling of, oh, we have like a really similar name, but they tend to have a sort of like a kind of gut reaction thing, like a gut reaction feel. He doesn't really go out of his way to like elaborate on like all of the possible logical missteps that you might make, right? So that's similar to me, except I do it when I've never seen it ever before, and I have to do it under time pressure. So I keep the explanations a little minimal in my live streaming. And then right now, because I'd seen this like maybe 4 months ago or whatever, however many months ago, like I kind of fuzzily remember the questions and the passage, like not 100%. So that kind of makes it easier for me to bridge all the connections. And it's unrealistic. It's not like when I'm actually taking a test for the first time. So in those cases, I think it's actually preferable to just kind of do the explanation, just to do kind of Khan Academy style, except that I'm half remembering, so that like there is a little bit of uncertainty as I'm choosing. But yeah, it's like Khan Academy with like a minor dosage of uncertainty. I'll try for today. So what that means is I'm actually not going to pay attention to time, because I don't think I'm going to go back and do a review. I'll do all the answer choices, and then I don't think I'll do the review. I don't think the review will take very long. So yeah, I'll just go through all the answer choices pretty quickly, because I'll front load the explanations as I take it. All right. Well, realizing how detrimental this sleep deprivation is. In other news, the Apple Pencil is at 27%. Do you think that can last like 2 hours? I don't think so. So let's go. Oh, I forgot. I keep forgetting that I need to make a video about this. It's just that I my weekends are extremely busy because I'm teaching classes from New York, in New York, all day and all like I'm busy all morning and afternoon, and then I have class uh, from like 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. for classes in Korea that I do online, and my Friday and Saturday and Sunday morning kind of run like that. So then Sunday night is the first time I can kind of relax, but Monday morning I'm back to this grind. So I'm just like exhausted. But the reason I was mentioning that was that I'm particularly sleep deprived because of the weekend, but things should start stabilizing. And then when I had a little bit of free time, I would announce that I was not accepted for the December SAT. Turns out that they only allow people like me to take the QAS tests, which in retrospect makes sense, now that I think about it. Like, of course, they should only allow me to take the QAS test because the other tests they would reutilize for future tests. And as an adult with high comprehension, I it's much easier for me to like remember the questions and then to help like kids in other parts of the country to cheat. So if I wanted to do something like that, which I don't, but it would, yeah, like as an adult, I would have some advantages in terms of facilitating a bad thing. So for QAS, that's no good. Sorry, for non QAS questions, that's no good. But philosophically, I think the College Board really should just, I don't know, given how like the entire country plus people from the international stage take the SAT just to get into American college, I strongly believe they should maybe reduce the number of administrations, but have, okay, just don't use the same thing. Just don't use the same tests. I don't know. Don't I want them to be more like the LSAT, where every time they use a test, they publish it. They publish it. Like every test is a QAS. They publish it, and in fact, they publish it publicly so that everyone can just access it and they can buy it at the bookstore and then just buy previously released high quality tests instead of facilitating this horrible industry with like this horrible material from like these publishers. I really wish the SAT would just like be more like the LSAT in that regard. Just release all of the QAS tests so everybody, just democratize it. Don't the high quality test is something that I think everyone should be taking, not like these low quality tests that sort of encourage really bad habits. Some of these tests have just unnecessarily difficult grammar just for the sake of grammar's sake. Unnecessarily difficult like vocabulary just for the sake of vocabulary's sake. The SAT doesn't actually focus on that. So why would the College Board be benefiting by having all these students like over studying the wrong things? So I really wish basically every test was a QAS. And then this unreleased nonsense, I really wish this sort of cheating around the unreleased stuff would just evaporate because every test is released. Every test is released. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents because I was waiting for the charge. Now it's at 57%. That is good enough for 2 hours, so I'm going to put the screen back on. Sorry for the delay. All right. Oh, I realized what's better for my posture: using pillows in this deskless hotel, using pillows as my desk. Not bad, actually. Not bad. Way better than yesterday. Yesterday I was like holding things up. Oh my god, it was messing my posture. Messing my posture up. All right, let's finish this passage. Here we go. So 38 to 41, let's remember what this is. Right, not her at all. So my prediction is something like portray Jess's, serves primarily to portray Jess's disassociation from herself, confusion over, nope, her grandfather, nope, names, nope, constructing a new sense of who she is, that's a great, and then roles of other members, that's no. Yeah, let's go. And then, all right, and now I'm not going to pay attention to time anymore for today, just because, yeah, because I'm way over time anyway. Here we go. Second encounter with the grandfather differs from her first because they stare at each other. The first time she's like really scared to even just say hi, but she stares at her. They're assessing each other. Right, without support. That's actually true. Just gonna double check. Startled, unpredictable, no. Confident, no. We're still uncertain. That was actually the biggest surprise of the story. You know, that I actually expected them to get closer. Has little. I mean, no, that's kind of just true of both situations. 76, crisp most nearly means. Is that his clothes? Crisp? What is crisp? Oh, I just zoned out, but crisp lines of his, shirt. Crisp lines of his shirt. Sharp lines. All right, and that is the first passage. I'm highly confident in all those answers, so I'm going to move on. Making space, the brain knowing where things are. So is this space in the brain or space in the world? And it sounds like space in the world because where things are is in the world, right? So space in the world. So how the brain knows where things are by understanding space. Okay, and by the way, I don't remember this topic at the moment. Like, I'd have to read it to remember what this is. So, space in the world. Implication of the overlap. Areas of the brain responsible for cognition and areas, responsible for, okay, there's two areas. There's the cognition and then this long thing. Okay, and just to double check, cognition is for thinking and sensory motor is more like sensing, like, and moving. So, sure. The overlap means that they are actually, thinking happens through sensing and moving. Thinking happens through sensing and moving. Activating these pathways, right? Thinking happens through sensing and moving. When you picture a couch, sitting on a couch, the thought of sitting on the couch is partially activates the visual tactile, right, of sitting on the couch, right? It's like your body kind of feels as if you are sitting on the couch in a way. Oh, this is a theory. This theory is not 100% sure because this word might. This theory has a name. It's not widely accepted yet. It's called embodied cognition, as in it's like the physicality of cognition is embodied. There is evidence. favor of this view. Irrelevant features of the sensory stimulus. In a classic study. Oh, and they often involve space, apparently. Okay, so here the experiment, I have to predict what the experiment is, and the experiment is going to be something about how something irrelevant. So when I'm thinking about something irrelevant to the thought that is physical is somehow triggered by that thought. Something like that? I don't know. To judge whether items were upside down or right side up. Photographs of pans. Now I have to press button to answer. And left, okay, so this is the design of the experiment. Excuse me, whoa, came out of nowhere. Whoa, okay, and right, so this is not important. Okay, this is not important, so, which means, right, it's not important if the clicker is on my right hand or the clicker is my left hand. That's the irrelevant thing. But it's not going to be irrelevant in embodied cognition, because embodied cognition, it's like upside down. Is this thing upside down? Then apparently it has something to do with the hands. Right. Okay, right. With the same, right. If there's a handle, and if it's on the same side, then it feels more like a game. Right, which makes sense. With the left hand was faster when the handle was on the left. When the corrections has been matched between the hand, there were fewer errors. Also made fewer errors. So they're faster with fewer errors. And when the objects are mirror reversed, so right side too. This is the right side, okay? And this is the left side. So faster, fewer errors. And now we have another example. So this is the pan example. And now we have another example. Mental rotation. Oh, it's not a click. It's anyway. I said clicker earlier, but it was actually a button, and I don't know why I imagined a clicker. Okay, I'm back to 55. I'm just reading. Shepard and Metzler. Same shape from a different viewpoint or a different shape. Oh, this is like one of those games. It's like one of those Tetra games, but yeah, but like, how much will I rotate, and is it the same shape or is it a different shape? And the amount of rotation is like, if it's only like 90 degrees, that's easier than 270 degrees. Right, very proportionately. So the longer it takes to rotate in real life, the longer it takes me to confirm. Mental reasoning is constrained as if it were taking space in the real world, taking account of space in the real world. There's no reason for the side of the handle to affect responsive, but it does. There's no physical object to be actually turned, but the time required to perform the test varies as if it did, as if it actually had to be turned. Right, so this should be fast, and this should be fast. and this should be slow, and that's right. Two experiments. Studies, significance, contrasted, no. A theory is described as the first one. Right, that's true. We just define the theory. We just describe the theory. And then we have two examples and then significance. Is there significance? I mean, I feel a little iffy about the significance. But sure, it's like a summary, right? I mean, that's good enough. The other ones are all clearly wrong. Are they, though? Yeah, contrasted is clearly wrong. Yeah. Yeah. Peace and honesty. I honestly feel like embodied cognition would just say that's not, yeah, embodied cognition has nothing to do with abstract concepts because we're only talking about frying pans and Tetris shapes. So I think they would accept. Right. I'm looking over here on the right side, can show signatures, right? And I'm looking at the top, perhaps also involves, right? So I think might involve. I think this author wouldn't necessarily. I don't remember the author ever talking about abstract concepts. I don't remember abstract concepts ever coming out. This question is actually making me slightly nervous. Yeah, I don't remember abstract concepts ever coming out. So I would say, yeah, it's just irrelevant. Let's see. By conceding, may not account. Yeah. Perfect. That's exactly the right answer. Good. Because, yeah. I'm just less common. First of all, that's not even a good argument. It's horrible. But ooh, what? I mean, I still think D is correct because that's literally may not thought might involve. At least in part. Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna go with in part. At least in part. Yeah. I'm gonna because we never should be tested under conditions. We never talk about there's no mention ever of the conditions. Okay, from my memory of this passage, there's no memory. There's no mention of the conditions of under which embodied cognition applies, and so we should have certain conditions for experimenting on it. I don't. There's no mention of it ever. So D is correct. On the real test, I probably wouldn't have gone to C and like tried to knock it out. That would have taken too much time. But since I'm doing the review as I'm going, just made that explanation. That thought may involve activating motor and sensory thingies. Improve activation, control the body. Yeah, control the body. Reactions to certain events. No. Interest. 20 interest. Let's look at interest. And of particular interest here, of importance here. Yeah, importance is correct. That word just came right at it was like on the tip of my tongue. I was looking for a word like that. When the author refers to certain classic studies, right? We're talking about classic studies. She's talking about like the most representative, I think she, most representative studies. Antiquated, no, that's negative. Frequently, no. Long established, well regarded, yes. Understated, what the heck? Why would that have anything to do with classic? Based on the passage, Tucker Nellis, I think, is the left side. Oh, I was actually not paying attention to the names at all. Right. Well, what do we know about Tucker Nellis? I'm gonna remember what I know. I'm gonna try to keep in mind what we know about Tucker Nellis, but because my memory is not so great right now, let's just see. Right, this is the handle. This is the handle and the left and right hand buttons. Faster and fewer errors, faster and fewer errors, okay? Unaware of the focus, I don't think that's... Oh, the subjects. Oh, subjects. Yeah, unaware of the true focus could be true because the focus was for them it was about the accuracy, but the true focus is actually their accuracy with their left or right hands. Yeah, that makes sense. Honestly, the rest of this I don't really need a double. Yeah, they're not. We don't know anything else. Utensils. Yeah. Unaware of the true focus. I think that was the bottom left. I think it comes out like secretly. The word secretly is super important. They're not interested in the choices. But, right? So 34 to 36, that's the key. 34 to 30. Right. Could the likelihood that most participants write with the right? No, because they actually they try both sides. They did left and right, And it turns out for left side button, if the handle is on the left, it's faster. For right side button, if the handle is on the right, they're faster. It flips and it works on both sides. So no. Based on the participants, no. Ruled out the possibility, yes. And the best evidence for this is in the top right of the first page. Right? Because we have mirror reversed. That is 48 to 50, whatever. 47 to 51. Okay, it's good enough. Based on the table, which statement best represents the findings about the mean response times? I just zoned out. Okay, right. I zoned out because when it said the table, I just wasn't imagining the table. So the table, based on the table, which statement represents findings about the mean response times? Left is left is faster, right is faster, left and right are slower. Okay. Left, right, faster. Left, right, slower. Okay. Oh, but here I'm noticing slowests. So we want fastest with handles on the same side as the response hand. Yep. Oh, okay. 21, an advocate of embodied cognition. I mean, they would say that if it's on the left side, because they can imagine grabbing it with their hand, they are faster. Slowly and deliberately. Right, yes, that sounds right. Sharply, no. Easier to recognize? No. The objects are right. All right, and now I need to take a break. Nature calls. Okay, I'll be right back. Not eat 1 p.m. I'll be faster, but I need to go. All right, guys. Sorry about that. I had a minor emergency of the sort of day-to-day biological sort. Perhaps induced by this beverage in front of me. Well, we're now on the third passage, and I'm gonna keep it. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it snappy. I think my explanations are pretty clean so far. If you agree or disagree, let me know what you think. Given how messy right now I feel, this is actually not that bad. Am I being overly optimistic? Anyway, here we go. Evolution in a toxic world, another science passage, hard science passage. Chemical threats and evolution. Evolution and life is on the same side. The toxicity and chemical threats are on the same side. We're talking about UVB radiation, and DNA is this thing. So radiation is a bad thing. The photoliase is an enzyme. That's a good thing. So the photoliase repairs and radiation damages. UVB damages. Okay, UVB bad, photoliase good, and DNA and right. Life responding is probably DNA photoliase being produced. Should I learn how to pronounce photoliase, or I'm just gonna go with photoliase, whatever, because I feel awkward about that pronunciation, but whatever. Photoliase, photoliase, freaking. Here we go. Blaustein. Frogs, yay frogs. Attention to UV radiation, the negative, our enemy. Population declines. Like many cold-blooded ectotherm frogs, they lay their eggs in sunlit things, and I know that this is gonna be contrasted in the future, expressly relying on the sun's energy to speed along, right? The hatching, the development, the metamorphosis before the pond dries. Much like photosynthesis or vitamin D production is a trade-off. Faster, but it's higher risk. If they live under the sun, they are defended against UVB. Ooh, this is kind of harder than I remember. Okay, in addition to behavior changes like burrowing in mud or laying in logs, so this is a defense, and the production of natural sunscreens, amphibians have redundant systems for DNA repair, including photoliase. So we have behavioral changes, we have natural sunscreen, but we have 1, 2, 3. And these are the defenses, okay? So they have to be out in the sun to quickly grow their babies. And these are their mechanisms to be protected from the sun. Because the sun radiates this UVB and messes up our DNA. And messing up baby DNA is not a good thing. Because they don't look at all these baby frogs, man. These baby frogs be freaking out. Actually, kind of knowing the conclusion makes I feel like I can make much more interesting content if I know the conclusion. Because I could just make jokes along the way. Anyway. Freaky frog babies. Here we go. Interested in the level of protection afforded by DNA photoliase. Okay, obviously we're focused on the last one. Potential impacts of the So maybe not just frogs. UVB resistant frog species because they're most exposed to sunlight, and increased photoliase activity in comparison to tend to be protective. Hang on. Most exposed, protected from. Oh, there's, in other words, right, frog species that are chilling in the sun. So this is like the Californian, the Floridian frog species compared to like the New England, the kids who live in Boston who don't get that much sun, right? Okay, not only that, there's still an additional thing. Basically, the ones who chill in the sun, the California babies produce more photoliase. The Boston babies produce less photoliase. The detrimental effects confirm the detrimental effects of UVB to the eggs. We have finally a species name. They're the most resistant. Okay, so yes, UVB versus photoliase. More photoliase, less damage. More UVB, more damage. Oh, it can even kill the embryos. But it can also do sublethal, potential subtle effects. Subtle effects. Is this intriguing? Isn't this obvious? So far, it seems like this is very obvious. Isn't the answer just yes? I'm like confused what is the question here? Isn't the answer just yes? What's the intriguing part of this question? This is bothering me right now. Let me double check what was confirmed over here on the like over here at the bottom. Okay, the thing that was confirmed is detrimental effects of UVB on the eggs, and then intriguingly, are less resistant species more susceptible to DNA damage caused by UVB. Huh? Is the difference? What is this is surprisingly hard to understand the transition. Like, okay, over here we're just saying, over here from 25 and on, they're just saying that a species that have the most sunlight have increased photoliase. So sunlight, photoliase. Which means better repair. Okay? At 35 and on, it says UVB increases damage. Okay. Whereas high photoliase, less damage. So the interesting thing is what? Why is this interesting? Because then if you just combine these two, okay, then you get increases repair and decreases damage. So our less resistant species more susceptible to increase. Duh? What? Okay, I somebody tell me if I'm crazy. Isn't this duh? Like, why is this an intriguing question? Like, I had to literally map this out to make sure that the logic is not already extremely clear. Because if I'm, and I actually remember when I first read this, I was a little confused by the transition too, because um, like I'm not a logician, okay? Like a logician, no, logician. I'm not like a logic boy. I don't analyze logic, okay? I just use it as a person, as like a lay person, as someone who reads a lot. But am I missing something here? Because I think it already made the conclusion here. So I'm like, what the hell is the point of this last paragraph if we've already proved it in the second paragraph? You know, tell me if I'm crazy. Please let me know if I'm wrong. Okay, because this is super strange. And, uh, all right, here we go. Oh man, that's wasting too much time. Okay, it's already like 12. I have like an hour left. Here we go. Um, a single species of frog. Okay, we have a frog inhabiting different altitudes of the French Alps. Okay, altitudes. So altitudes means higher and lower levels of UVB. Right, right. Higher altitudes show less DNA damage than their lower altitudes. Oh. Oh, okay. If I'm adapted to higher altitudes, so if I'm adapted to UVB, higher UVB, that means I am more defended. So then obviously they had less damage. The genetic mechanism of this adaptation will require further study. So you're gonna this is a separate idea. Phthalate was not measured. This is another. Oh right, this is the genetic mechanism because are genes related to phthalate? And increase in high altitude tadpoles. Okay, now we have another transition here. Other ways frogs they studied the effects of BAP. What? I don't. This is really. This does not seem well written. Like, I'm. This logical transitions are like just like kind of a mess. Other ways might experience DNA damage. They studied the effects of BAP. BAP binds with DNA, causing a kink in the helix, just like UVB. And phthalate fixes kinky DNA. And high altitude frogs had less BAP. Okay, that's interesting. So it's a separate thing. Added protection by DNA phthalate. Oh my God, I finally understand the connection. First, no, I don't understand the question. Never mind. Don't worry about what I was thinking. I stand by my ongoing confusion about the answer to the question coming out before this question at line 45. I continue to be confused by this. So this is, anyway, on the real test, I would just be like, hey, this is the BAP section. On the real test, I don't have all the time in the world to just like figure out exactly the logic. So I'd have to be like, I would remain confused about that question at the top of this right column. But, we would talk about, fatalies. Like we talk about, we're not 100% sure on the mechanism, right? So fatalies, maybe, question mark. And then we talk about same species, different altitude. Okay, same species, different altitude. That's this part over here. There are 3 different sections in these things. So this is also this fatalies, So I guess are less resistant species more susceptible to damage? And I think I finally realized something. It's just asking the inverse, right? Maybe that's what my problem was. I was just assuming the inverse, and maybe that is a logic thing. But like this, I guess that doesn't necessarily mean lower fatalities equals higher damage. And I think this might have been the question. I think this might be the question that we're talking about. Right. But for me, I just equated. Okay. I just equated these things because they seem like natural to equate. But I think at a technical, logical standpoint, they are not exactly the same things. So maybe I was just being silly about that. But I don't know. I feel like on the SAT for a high school level test, like the sort of common sense logic that I was using, I think is good enough. But I'm gonna stop bitching about it. Let's move. Just upset that really messed me up. Okay. Ah. Okay, so what I'm expecting is highest exposure to sunlight has the highest fatalities. So fatalities activity, what's the highest one? The highest one is this, and the lowest ones are these. Okay. So this is hidden and unexposed, and high exposure. Okay, makes sense. Makes perfect sense. So this is the plus and these are the minuses, right? Just over here, I'm looking for DNA damage by altitude. High altitude means high UVB. High UVB means more damage. Oh, no, more damage resistance. Damage resistance. So they should have least damage. Okay. So altitude of naturally occurring populations, the highest should have M&E frequency. What's M&E frequency? M&E frequency, M&E is the damage. So high has, this is kind of curious, but generally speaking, the trend is down here, but this is like a weird little bit of breaking the trend, because yeah, it's generally down. Also, this part is a little odd too. Okay, this part is also a little strange, because like from just the passage, this is what I would have expected. And then, by the way, as a separate comment, the fact that without UVB exposure, it's all just generally low. I mean, that makes sense, because if you're not being damaged at all, then of course the damage stays low. Yo, guys, that passage, please tell me, what the hell am I not looking at? Because, or did you guys have a similar experience reading that passage? Because honestly, that was effed up. Like, and I think about it. Even my first time reading it, I just had to roll with it. I couldn't like it. I couldn't get my head around it. So here we go. What situation most similar to 10 to 13, 10 to 13, 10 to 13, 10 to 13? Where are we? 10 to 13 over here. 10 to 13. Trade-off. Faster development, higher risk. Faster development, higher risk. Faster development, higher risk. Faster development, higher risk. So this is analogies. So I'm going to do something that is beneficial even though it's higher risk, because it's higher risk, or like despite it's higher risk, okay? Higher risk to grow. I mean, is that risk? But okay. Right, predators, but beneficial. I think that's better. No, this is just a trade-off. And this is not a trade-off. It's like it's just a cost. That's just a reason. So it has to be B. Okay. This is a cost. And that's a cost. Yeah. And so those are different. 23. Burrowing mud will reduce the sun, and it would benefit by not repairing. Of course it doesn't repair. Limiting exposure to sunlight. Yeah, I don't even need to. Okay, let's just move on. Based on the passage, it can most be it can most reasonably be inferred. French. This must be the right side, right? Yep, French Alps. Okay, let me just infer something. So I'm quickly looking for some of the words here. All right, so I'm looking about, okay, there's ABC do not use common words. There's not like a single word that repeats across ABCD. That's the main thing I was just checking. So I'm going to infer something, just gut feeling, which is higher altitude adapted frog species have lower damage when they are exposed to the sun, and lower altitude adapted frog species, oh no, it's not species, it's from the same species. So same species, but if they are adapted to higher altitude or adapted to lower altitude, that changes their resistance. It kind of seems weirdly broad. I mean, we didn't talk about the lethality, I think. Are naturally higher in the species? Yes. Oh my God, man, this was all ABC was messing me up. Yes, tolerance to UVB can vary within a species. Correct. Yeah, the best. Yeah, it's top right somewhere. I mean, yeah, this whole sentence from 49 to 54 or whatever. And maybe even before that. I mean, the whole thing together. But if I had to choose between the first sentence and the second sentence, I would say the second sentence, but let's double check. Yeah, second sentence adapted, because the word brethren comes out, so that helps. And I'm done. I think 54, 56 just moves on, but let's just double check. Yeah, that part is the fataliers. That's this part. So That's not to do with the species, right? I'm like just double checking. Okay. Yeah. High confidence. Moving on. Experience 61. Experience damage. Receive damage. Take damage. Undergo damage. Withstand damage would be really strange, but let me just read the full sentence now. Just so interested in other ways that they might experience undergo damage, because that's the transition to BAP. So yeah, withstand would be like resist. Feel is too subjective. It's too much about feeling. Reasonably inferred from the passage that if further research demonstrated that Phthalate protected the high altitude frogs from BAP into damage, then Pacific tree frogs, which have very high phthalate, should also cope with BAP in their environment. Okay, that's basically true, but let me just make sure. The main thing I need to make sure is that Pacific tree frogs have high phthalate. Okay, so just to double check. Pacific tree frogs was the time were these guys who are the most yes, they have the highest concentration of phthalate. I remember the Pacific tree frogs because they were the only times we had the name of a species. It was the only time we had a name of a species. Even the French one didn't have a name. Yeah, so that's how I got that quickly. Also, I kind of remember. Had taken this test before. All right, so anyway, the best evidence for oh my god, I didn't even pay attention to live reference, but yes, it's like at the bottom of this, so that's what, 39, 38, 37. What? Similar ability to cope with what? So what am I supposed to be looking for in this case? I'm looking for the fact that Pacific tree frogs have high phthalate. I'm looking for I'm not looking for DNA phthalate protecting BAP induced. Okay, let me just double check here. Okay, I'm just. I'm looking at 35 to 39, and I'm not seeing that over there. So I'm looking at 43 to 46, just looking at, because that's like the closest one, 43 to 46. No, that's just a random question. Okay. I'm looking at 60 through 64 and 66 to 70. Okay, that 60, 64, that's just random. 67 to 70. A specialty of the phthalate is kinky DNA. How had less BAP-induced DNA damage. That's maybe from phthalate. Hang on. If usually when I can't find the best evidence right away, but you know, I'll finish the sentence. If I can't find the best evidence right away, then I have to doubt my original answer for 27. But I didn't check A, so let's just double check A. But D doesn't sound crazy, but something's iffy about D. So I'm looking at 25. Their study reveals strong positive correlations between UVB resistant frog species and increased phthalate activity. 25 to 31. I don't know if my tiredness is my excuse. I think this is just tough. Strong positive correlations between these species and photolyase activity. And 4346 says their findings raise an intriguing question. No, man, that doesn't help. And this is some random details. So I'm looking at 2531, which talks about how sunlight increases photolyase, which okay. Versus 6670, which tells me it's just like UVB. Honestly, the only evidence I should need is that Pacific tree frogs have high photolyase. So do high altitude frogs have high photolyase? Well, we don't know, right? Do high altitude frogs have photolyase? We don't know, but it's suggested. So if it's proven that it really is, then we need a link between photolyase and BAP, and we already have that in this question itself. The question itself connects photolyase and BAP. And Pacific tree frogs should also cope with BAP. Let's double check B, C, or D. Thrive in high altitude, no. Exhibit B only when, no. Produce have, no. They should not have kinks. Should. 25 to 31. Their study revealed strong positive correlations between UVB resistant. UVB doesn't seem like super. My gut feeling says A, and I probably chose A last time. $66 to $70. High altitude frogs had less BAP compared. And then this had photolyase is skinky. They had less damage, the idea of less damage. But the reason this is confusing, and now I'm realizing it's probably D. Okay. But the reason this is confusing is because this D says high altitude frogs had less damage. So therefore, that helps with the idea of cope. But then the word protected over here is already, so the less damage and protected are redundant, you know? I might be crazy. I might be missing something stupid obvious, but my rigorous read so far says the logic here is a little sloppy. Okay, I can concede that the negative isn't always implied, you know? So if you ask the flip side, if you ask like the inverse, you know, That's valid. That's valid to ask because an inverse is not the same as the contrapositive or whatever the heck it's called, right? So that's valid, but this feels redundant. The D feels redundant because the D seems like it's in the answer, in the question itself of 27. So I don't know. I'm going to move on because this is taking way too much time. But yeah, I gotta check the answer. I gotta check the answer key and before I talk anymore because this is just messing me up. 72. Compared. Compared. Sorry, 72 confirmed. Just until concentration is confirmed, we can't say that it's due to phthalate. Are verified. Data in figure 1 that high phthalate can be found is correlated with exposure. No exposure and then less, so that makes sense. 0.7. Okay. So unexposed. Wait, hang on. We're looking for unexposed, right? No exposure. Let's look at 0.7. Unexposed, unexposed, unexposed. And yes, that's all below 0.7. Unexposed. That's correct. I'm not going to double check because that's just absolutely correct. Which species lays its light in location with greatest exposure? First, let's look at the highest number, high exposure. And is there anything that sounds higher than high exposure? Nope. So it's Gila Regila. Gila Regila. Sounds good. That's a good Disney character. Here we go. Which data from figure 2 appear to be inconsistent with the researcher's observations? Inconsistent about the frog populations in the French Alps. Honestly, these French Alps, that right side of this passage is stressing me out. Like, I'm getting triggered. That the right column is something's messing me up with that right column. Which data from figure 2 appear to be inconsistent? Oh, sorry, figure 2. Good. I'm not looking. Right, which data? This seems to be inconsistent, and this seems to be inconsistent. So I'm going to look for the 2450 first. 2450. Okay. The population at 450 experienced more damage. Wait, that's consistent though, because you're supposed to right. You're supposed. I was looking for the opposite of that, right? I was looking for 2450 being more damage than than some other dude. But okay. So then I'm looking here. 450 had more damage than 450 had more damage than the other ones. Okay. With 800 experienced more damage than, yeah, well, that would be surprising. 800 experienced more damage than, aha, that makes sense. Yep, that's the one. Okay. They chose kind of, I wish for 32 they kind of just gave the most extreme examples. I don't know why they had to go with 800 just to be annoying. All right. Yo, I don't know, man. I mean, it's the real QAS, so I can't say anything about it because it actually came out, but I don't know. Questionable decisions, College Board. Questionable decisions. Uh, let's look at the answer choices before I complain anymore. Now, obviously, the good thing is that everyone's scored on the same scale. So, regardless of the questionable decisions of the SAT, you'll still just be compared against other people who took the test, not against the 100% correct answers. So, yeah, you're fine. You're fine there. Following the American Revolution, Mercy Otis Warren. I'm legit tired, but I have to go to the Hagwon at 1, so I gotta push on. I'm gonna talk a little less because I don't have that much time. The other connection is now dissolved. Though we were free, we're just an infant, learning to walk, afraid. Debts, governments, struggle, long, out of breath, right? Poor. It was uncertain how to tranquilize. Or whether such, if established, would be administered agreeable to laws founded on the beauty of the republicans. We didn't know. We were like babies. We were exhausted. We're poor, and we're not sure what to do. So literature and mankind are different. Literature is theoretical, and mankind is reality. Intrigues of court. Right, the politicking. Generally supposed just they were naive. Okay? Fraud, violence, flattered, hoodwinked. Right, so this is like the intrigues of court. All the intrigues of court, fraud, violence, deception. Set their own seals to renunciation. Oh, okay. To reject their own freedom. Splendid might be a negative word. Liberty is hard to keep. We might give away liberty. The tenfold way. The burden. Right, we might give away our liberty to a master. Basically, this part over here up top is saying we were unaware as Americans. We were unaware that there are people who will convince us Americans to give away our liberties. The usual course of human conduct. Crown. Oh, that's the right. Crowns is the example. So people basically the idea of royalty. So there might be people who want to persuade us to let us become kings. Hey, freedom is tough, right? Let me be your king. And who's this they right now? Just the people, the men, just generally. Oh, this is very pessimistic. Okay. Yeah. The general nature of man is that people will want to rule, and people want to, in order to rule, they'll sort of sell you on this idea that if you hand over some of your freedom, then your stress will go away because I'll make your decisions for you, basically. Something like that. Focus shift from it shifts from naivete to this problem, I guess. Yeah. Repercussions of a characteristic. That sounds about right. Warning to critique. No. Education system. A recollection of the recommend. No. Okay. Just learning to walk mainly serves to characterize the United States as no, not the decision to independence. Inexperience. Yes. No, believing in that society is fine. You know, that's not the naive part. Believing is not the naive part. It's the not knowing how to deal with it. Believing is not that part. Implies that, and criticize. Implies that after Americans, they would question whether they would be. Oh, so the debt doesn't seem like a major issue, and forced to rejoin, that doesn't make it financial. Okay, but and this seems a little minor, so I'm gonna appease all citizens. Let me just look for evidence for that. Appeases all citizens. How the state should be controlled, or whether such would be administered agreed to the law. Uh, it's a little iffy, but my gut feeling says, yeah. I just don't like the word all right now, but maybe I'm missing a obvious bit. Occupations is such a minor thing. Like, yeah. The idea of all is only implied for me that about because of the idea that some are going to be, hoodwinked. So I'm gonna have to just move on. Unworldly view of human nature. They don't understand mankind. Their naive view, unworldly, not worldly. As not neglected Americans as naive and idealistic is about right. No. Okay, naive. Let me see where I wrote the word naive. Yeah, 34, 35 seems naive and idealistic. This part is pretty much like 30, 35 is pretty good evidence. So let me see if that's there. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Historical pattern of governance that should serve as a warning to Americans that most successful governments are based on violence and treachery. Yeah, that's almost certainly true. I just need to double check. Most strong government, fraud, violence. Yeah. That after the war, one at the time required. Okay, yeah, that's over on the top right. These they had freely lavished to secure easy modes of existence and exemption from beyond the necessary demands. So that's 50 to 52. 50 to 52. 48 means to secure, to obtain, to guarantee is probably the right word. Let me just double check. 48. These they had freely lavished. They freely lavished their blood and their treasures, okay, to secure their to get fast and promise, yeah, guarantee. Say so rulers are appointed, but bartering the compliance, yes, compliance. Yeah, other leaders, no. Yeah, they actually, the people will surrender their freedoms. Okay, let's look here. Traffic cascade. So we have links and traffic cascades and food webs. Ripple et al. So passage 1 has something to do with carnivores, predators, and they're talking about food webs. So carnivores and preys. Okay, predator and prey. Presence of a predator decreases the population of prey, which increases the number of organisms at the next lower trophic levels. Okay, yeah, and I do vaguely remember this idea, which is that if I kill a bird, then the worm will actually increase. The worm will survive because I killed the bird. Wolves. Wolf recolonization, natural conduct and exercise in scientific thinking. An apex predator, a top dog like the wolf, of the lynx and hare food web, had low hare and lynx and high coyote. Oh, and coyote. Oh, geez, that's a lot of animals. There's the wolf, there's a coyote, and then there's also lower, okay, high coyote, low lynx and hare. Which means that if the wolf returned, could we indirectly improve lynx conservation and hare conservation? Why don't they mention the hare? It's kind of strange, but all right. Okay, there's multiple reasons for this. By killing coyotes, wolves will kill coyotes. Killing coyotes. Meso means middle, so that has to be. Release means, in this case, lots of meso predators, which means lots of coyotes. Right. Coyote means, which decrease lynx for hares. Oh, because coyotes and lynx both try to eat hares. That's why we're focusing on the lynx. Further hypothesized, because coyotes also eat lynx. Right. Second, wolves eat on elk and deer. But when these elk and deer are high, reduce and also change the behavior. Via this predation risk, could eat shrubs, hare. Oh wow, that's complicated. So there's the wolf will eat the coyotes, which will help the lynx, but then wolf will eat the elk. Wolf will eat the elk, which will help the hares, which will help the lynx. Wow, crazy. Wolf will eat the elk, which will help the hares, which will help the lynx. Oh my god. Adapting to wolves. So I'm looking for something to contrast or contradict all of these beautiful, complicated cascades in the first passage. But initial declines in coyote, now they're coming back. So that's a surprise. Wolves apparently don't destroy coyotes. Part of the reason is in other systems, we're looking at other systems, positive relationship between wolves and coyotes because they benefit on scavenging. That's the reason. So if the wolves do the killing for them. So wolves also don't really kill. This also doesn't really. They don't really kill coyotes either. Coyotes compete with lynx and indirect. Sure. So apparently Buskirk used to think. Now, by the way, the first group is from. I don't know. Okay, apparently these guys thought the coyotes and lynx fought, and that they also competed for resources. But unfortunately, that doesn't actually happen. They don't really fight. There's not a lot of evidence. In fact, lynx is more killed by wolves, wolverines, and lynx. Okay, so that's another big contradiction. They don't really fight. Wolves don't really kill coyotes. Coyotes actually benefit by scavenging, and lynx and coyotes don't really fight. Okay, Ripple. First paragraph, one important function of the first paragraph is now we're asking this question, it's sort of setting up the hypothesis that Ripple and colleagues would come up with by describing the historical of what happened, background of what happened. Strength of the assumptions. I don't know if assert is the right word, that's kind of sus, but it definitely informed the hypothesis. But, right, I remember this. Describe the situation historically that they were considering, which informed the hypothesis, right? You could literally add this part to B and it would be correct. But A is wrong because of the word assert. Yeah. concepts is wrong because, and this was, a lot of people get this one wrong. Concepts is wrong because it's only talk about the historical phenomena. 16, let's move on. Drive most nearly means would make, would create, would cause, oh wow, right there. Passage 1 indicates that rebellions calling would find in areas where wolves have returned, elk and deer would fall down. Okay? Okay. Fear of varieties? It's kind of strange. This is the sus part, local extermination of wolves, but graze for shorter periods, that definitely exists. Graze for shorter periods, need to stay alert, keeping their heads up, less time standing in one spot. Reduce the numbers. This is the sus part, like local extermination. Why do we need the words without interruption? Graze for shorter periods without interruption? Yeah, but varieties is wrong. Okay. Extermination. Okay, you know, that extermination is just off. I'm just gonna move on. Which choice from passage 2 best supports this idea? That findings about the effect on one's own coyotes in all locations. Passage 2. In some right, when we talk, that's like the beginning of passage 2, almost like in the middle of the right side, because it talks about not supported outside. So that's 61 to 60. I mean, even down to like here. To 68, 61, 68, 61, 68, 61. Okay. Passage 2 provide information about coyote mortality rates in northwest Montana to, now I forget which one that is, so let's look for north. Okay. To prove that wolves don't really kill coyotes, at least outside of, yeah, not benefit. Wolves don't really kill, yeah, coyotes outside of Yellowstone. Wolves don't really kill. Shared. 81 shared. For shared food resources, because they are, I mean, not actually sharing, right? For overlap, right? Scavenge is the wrong word. Steal is probably a better word. Okay, scavenge could actually be beneficial. Relationship between the passages presents, passage 2 just contradicts some of the assumptions. Maybe. Okay. Information challenges as to how. Okay, that's correct. Modifications, we don't have modifications. Not a study. No, not the same. Wolves can initiate trophic cascades through their face. Yes, they both would agree. No, we don't have that from passage 1. Both ecological and behavioral effects. Behavioral, that's only passage 1. Hypothesis ground line 2832. Prey on links. Right. That would, passage 2 would say, yeah, that doesn't really happen. based on oh, test difficulty of testing is not it. Many, but not for all. I don't know about many. See, this word many is the problem. But let's look at 52 because that's supposed to support. So let me look for that part where we talk about the coyotes. Hang on. Let me just remind myself. 2832. Let me just reread 2832. 2832 says coyotes. Oh, prey on lynx. A reduction of coyote would release. Oh, sorry. So, oh, this is right. Wolf. The wolves actually kill the lynx more often. So sorry. I actually totally. Let's look at the part where the wolves killed lynx. More predation, mortality. Direct were rare. So this part is where its data is insufficient, 91, 92, but that whole area is useful. Oops, I went to the wrong page. Let's look at 86, 88. Well, that's kind of strange that my line didn't come out. An observation of a single juvenile jinx killed by a coyote is not enough. Okay. An observation of a single jinx is not enough. It's based on insufficient data because 2832 says coyotes kill jinx. Right, a single, that's anecdotal, bros. All right, it's 12:51. I have to go. So that is the reading test. I did this the long way. I didn't even get to check my answers, but I have to go. I'm pretty sure that my answers are mostly correct, if not all correct. I feel like there's maybe one that I feel a little uncomfortable about, but if necessary, I'll come back and make a correction in a future video. All right, guys. It was a new format to do it this way, just like explaining slowly as I actually take it linearly. Not sure if this was better. I have some mixed feelings about it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if this kind of content is helpful for you and you'd like to have more of this kind of content, or you'd like to even help me shape and guide my idea for the next few things I do, then yeah, like, subscribe, and just say hi. All right, I'll see you guys soon. Good luck with your studies. I won't be taking the December SAT like I mentioned earlier in this video, but you know what? I'm still here and I'm still doing my job. I'm still gonna record all my SAT, QAS, so that this content can be used in the future. Peace.